Yes, yes. I swear that does not get old. And we are indeed going live. So I'm all hyped up. That music always.
Well, he has a reason to be hyped up. I'm gonna tell you that right now. That right there, he just did. Look it now. The jingles, the intro songs for your radio station, your podcast, your commercials is simple to make. He just made an intro song using AI and did AI video for the intro song to his live stream. This is the time we in. You're talking to the person, you're listening to the person who creates and makes songs for other YouTubers and podcasts for their podcast. I make the intro songs for their YouTube channels, for their podcast, and I just witnessed Matt Wolf make his own using AI. They don't even need me no more. And it was hard. All right, let's tap in and see what Matt Wolf is getting into as he does testing out some cool stuff in AI.
He pumps me up right before I go live.
Now, heads up, I listen to everything at 1.25.
So we are actually doing something a little bit different today. This one's going to be a fun stream, testing a new flow, testing a new software. I'm not actually using OBS this time around. I'm using a tool with some other stuff, and you'll find out why here in a moment. But the idea behind this show is I want it to be even more interactive than normal. I want to be able to pull up your comments on screen. I want to be able to interact with you guys. I want to be able to have a little bit of back and forth communication. So on this live stream and probably future live streams, I'm going to have a actual live producer slash let's call him color commentator on the shows with me. And him and I are going to kind of bounce ideas around off each other. We're still going to do the shows just like we've been doing them, where we're going to talk about the news. We're going to play around with some tools. We're going to respond to comments, answer questions, things like that. But now I've got like a sort of Jamie to my Joe Rogan, right? I've got somebody that can pop in and help me, talk about some things. When I run out of ideas, he'll come in and say a few words. He's managing the cameras and things like that. So he'll be, switching between my screen and my camera and other videos and things like that, and should make it a lot more fun and interactive. He's one of my best friends in the world. His name is Randy, but his friends in the online community call him Buffalo. And he's going to be joining me a little bit on the stream today and helping keep things fun and lively. I don't know if he wants to pop on the screen and say hello or
hello. Hey,
it's the Buffalo.
It's the Buffalo. First off, dude, that opening, I'm holding drumsticks, dude. I was in it, man. I love the opening. I love the energy. Your Monday streams are just going to be so much fun to be here with you. I've been in the AI space for a day, and then I leave for a year, and then I come back for a week. And so every time I leave, I go to your YouTube channel to listen to what you're covering, man. And every time my brain just explodes. So I'm going to be learning a lot alongside all y'all in the comment section, and hope to help upgrade this production value of your stream, bro. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And so Buff, as I like to call him, because I'm too lazy to say the full Buffalo. That's like way too many syllables. He's got a production background. He actually does like camera work for the Mariners and the Seahawks and the Kraken, and worked with doing production at Microsoft. So like I've actually got a real pro in the mix for once, instead of me just like, what does this button do? And then like trying to figure it out and then go, I really shouldn't have pressed that button. He actually knows what he's doing. So it'll be fun to have a little bit of different production value. Also a little bit of a second voice to sort of bounce things off with from time to time. So should be real fun, and I appreciate you, Buff. Thanks for hanging out and doing your thing.
Oh yeah, you're very welcome, sir. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I'll let you take it away.
Cool, man. So let's go ahead and do some screen share, and we'll start with the way we start in the past, and talk about a little bit of AI news that's been circulating. There hasn't been a ton of news over the weekend. I'm not expecting a ton of news came out. As you know, if you watch my Friday news videos, what I typically do is record those on Thursdays, put them out on Friday. That he built a neutron producing nuclear fuser in his kitchen using Claude. So he actually built this like nuclear fuser in his kitchen, and like he did the whole thing by essentially like putting all sorts of information about how to build nuclear fusers inside of the project knowledge, and then asked it questions until he was able to build it. To me, that's like pretty wild. Also pretty kind of scary. Like there's something a little bit scary about that to me,
dope.
that you can just use Claude to build this kind of stuff. But pretty crazy that somebody was able to do this.
That's dope. That's dope. I think it's dope. I think it's dope.
Blink 4 times if FBI AI robots are in your room. No, I'm good. Don't worry. Yeah, somebody's asking what does it do? To be honest, I'm not really sure. I think it was more of like this proof of concept. Somebody down here said, let's see, somebody asked the question like how much.
I skipped through it. I'm skipping through it.
Will launch API and ChatGPT at the same time. Mitch wants to know, will it wash his dishes? Probably not. Probably not. We'll get O3 Mini. Son thing, 7 months for us to get it. So whether or not we actually get an O3 Mini or not, I don't know. But somebody did ask, are you able to speak on how capable O3 Mini is compared to O1 Pro? Very specifically O1 Pro, not O1. So O1 Pro is the one you got to pay $200 a month to get inside of ChatGPT. And he said that O3 Mini is worse than O1 Pro at most things, but it's going to be a lot faster. So if you have O1 Pro, if you have the $200 a month ChatGPT plan and you have access to this O1 Pro mode, you're actually already getting a model that's better than this O3 Mini that they say is coming out in the next couple weeks. I think more excitingly is actually the launch of the API than anything, because when they launch that API, we're going to start to get O3 and probably O1 inside of tools like Cursor, like Windsurf, like, you know, all the various development tools that leverage AI once an API is available, because O1 is actually pretty dang good at coding. In fact, Nathan and I did a recent podcast episode on the Next Wave where he was showing how he's basically been building a really, really cool looking game.
Speaking of API, let's go to Audius real quick. Audius. Boom. All right. Audius has something about that. Said something about create app. Create your own app using Audius API. What does that mean? Audius API. How to build a music doc.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in on how to build a music DApp.
Man, if you don't talk faster than that.
My name is Ray. I run the engineering team here at Tiki Labs, which is one of the core contributors to the Audius project and the Audius protocol. We work very closely with the Open Audio Foundation on realizing the vision of building a widely accessible, community-owned music sharing and streaming protocol. Before we jump into the main subject of this talk, which is how to build an application on Audius, or a music DApp, if you will, I wanted to talk a little bit first about what Audius is and why something like it is necessary. So let's talk about what Audius is.
I know what Audius is.
Audius is a decentralized music streaming service that's owned.
Y'all don't know what Audius is.
We're doing all this.
Y'all don't know what Audius is, but I know what Audius is. If you don't know what Audius is, you need to know what Audius is, especially if you are a music artist.
It's because
or music fan.
We want to see through the mission of helping artists and rights holders control their destiny on the internet in a way that's currently not being done. We do this by providing as direct access as possible between artists and labels and their fans, with deeper engagement and monetization features, all done entirely on an open network that's owned by the community. And what this means is that anyone who is out there is freely able to interact with the Audius catalog, build things with the Audius catalog, and bringing artists closer to fans and letting them essentially control their own destiny. And giving this talk, to a developer audience who's empowered to start building on Audius and doing unique things and building new experiences, aims to really build a way for artists and rights holders to get out of that world where they're entirely dependent on the existing streaming provider as it's built today. Now, in your typical centralized music streaming ecosystem, you have content which comes into a centralized service. You could think about this as a Spotify. Fans are consuming music directly from that. They're paying back that service, and that service is paying back the content providers and the publishers and other folks in the ecosystem. What's really interesting about a distributed and decentralized music service, as we are building with Audius, is that there is no one party that controls how information flows between artists and fans, or labels and fans. And in this world that we're building, there's a public open network of all of the information in music with rules that are governed by anyone who wants to participate in it. And looking at this diagram here, we have something called a content ledger. This is made up of multiple blockchains where users are able to freely write data. We know that blockchains are community owned and decentralized, or distributed tech as well. From there, we serve a lot of really powerful, interesting things at Audius. Trending, we let you search across the catalog, we let you interact with fans and find out who are the top users and subscribers and followers and people who have reposted content. And all of this is handled by an off-chain network of these two entities called discovery nodes and content nodes, and those are operated by a third-party network of service providers or node operators. What's really cool about this is it makes it so that we as a developing group building the Audius protocol are not actually the gatekeepers of how people interact. And really what makes this presentation really interesting is utilizing this network is truly limitless in what you can do on top of it. You can build music into any DApp, into any app. It doesn't even have to be a Web3 thing, but provide music as a bedrock for a user experience on the internet and have that all rolled up and serve artists that are participating in this open network. So where do things stand today? We have a protocol token called Audio that is used to secure the network via a staking mechanism. Everyone who is running and operating one of these content nodes or discovery nodes is staking Audio to support that, which entitles them into owning a share of the network. We have over 60 different node operators running services that are serving traffic to users on a daily basis. We have millions of monthly users, 150,000 artists, over 1 million tracks part of the catalog, all being served by this decentralized community. And that boils down into tens of millions of on-chain actions, thinking about this content ledger piece where artists and fans are able to write data as their fundamental layer of communication. And in that, we've started to build in a lot of monetization features around gating content and accessing exclusive content. This has led to over 16,000 tips directly to artists, tons of wallets behind the scenes that are being made, but all done in a way where it's abstracted from the end user. So now let's get on to the fun part of this talk, where we're actually going to talk about how you could build a music DApp and some of the tools that we have built and provided to allow you to interact with this distributed and decentralized music streaming ecosystem. So the first thing that I want to go ahead and share on this presentation is our public REST API. And this is actually included in this deck in the resources section as the first link here. Our public REST API is kind of the first experience you can use to start integrating Audius and very easily get a sense of where you can pull information from and where you can broadcast information to. And for example, if you are building a Web3 game and you wanted to include music, this is where you could go to really easily interact with a REST API, pull in what are the things that are trending on Audius and topping the charts, and actually have those be played back to users as an in-app experience. We obviously provided a first-party client, which probably many of you have seen, called Audius.co. That is an interface to Audius. You're able to create an account, listen to music, repost content, upload content, and all that. But it can be one of many, and it is in fact one of many today. There are many other apps that are able to contribute to the Audius catalog, and we'll get into how you can actually use some of the tools we've provided to upload your own content to Audius without even going through our first-party app. But anyway, backtracking to this API docs page here, we're looking at, let's say, that example query that I mentioned before. We're building a Web3 game, and we want to include a little soundbite from the top track that's trending on Audius this week. So I can cruise over here to this track section, look at the API endpoint for get trending tracks. Here, there's a little code sample for us, and it has a URL provided. You can see that this is something, this hostname is one of the nodes that's being operated serving traffic for Audius. This one's run by Blockdaemon here. If I were to copy this link, which goes to trending, and this would look strikingly similar to if we went over to Audius and looked at the trending page to see what's trending. This first track, uploaded by Good Society here, we would see that this is indeed the user that uploaded this track, and it's Good Society. So now let's say I wanted to actually listen to this track. I wanted to build that experience in my game that allows someone to be, able to listen to what this is, while they're, say, driving their race car. We actually are integrated into Music Racer, which is an Xbox game today. You can go check that out on our websites. But I would come over here and look and see that there's a track ID associated with this track. I would copy this out. I'll come back to our API docs and go over to stream a track and look at this endpoint here, which includes a link similar to the other one that we just followed with a stream in the path and an ID that is pasted in the middle here. So we'll copy this, we'll open a new tab here, and I'm going to replace that ID with our ID from the top track on trending. Since we don't have strong rate limits in place, we ask that you respect our API. Otherwise, we will have to take measures and work with the network to ensure that things remain secure. But this is free to use and it's globally accessible. The next thing that I wanted to show, which is a little more interesting, because you may wonder, okay, yes, I can read data from Audius, but what if I want to actually build a client or an application I can interact with it and upload things and repost things and log in as users and do things on their behalf and let users log in? And for that, we're going to introduce the Audius SDK, which is going back to the little slide deck here, this example snippet that's pasted. So what we're going to do for the rest of the demo is I'm going to create a very simple, straightforward Node.js application where I'm going to get a track and then I'm going to upload a track back to Audius. And then if all goes well, when we come over to our little profile here called live demo, we should actually see that upload happen. All right, so here now I'm sharing my entire screen. You can see over here on this window, I have a Visual Studio Code IDE opened. I'm going to go over to docs.audius.org, which contains all of our docs around how to use the Audius SDK. And we're going to use this as an opportunity to, as I mentioned before, get a track from Audius and then upload a track of ourselves and see it reflected on our profile. I'm going to go over here to the SDK. There's a lot of instructions here, so if this demo doesn't cover everything, please
Why do that instead of
read through these
uploading
docs.
directly
We
to
put a lot of time and energy into making
Audius?
sure they're approachable to anyone. So first thing we're going to do is need to create a developer app. And I've already gone ahead and created an Audius account. It's called Live Demo. You can get to this yourself by going to audius.co/signup and creating and registering an account. And we're going to use this account here as our live demo opportunity and also the account that's going to create our developer profile and own our API keys. The way that we do things next is we go over to the settings page. We click Manage Our Apps. We find the prompts to create a new developer app, and we retrieve our Audius API key and API secret. All right, so I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go to the settings menu. I'm going to scroll down here and find Create App, Manage Your Apps. In here, I'm going to create a new app. This app we're going to call Demo App, and we're going to say this is a demo app. What this will do for us is actually write to that Audius content ledger. Every action that takes place on Audius actually ends up on the content ledger and gets indexed and discovered by the services that actually serve queries. So before, when we were looking at our REST API, we were talking to one of these services or nodes that was being operated by a member of the community. This data that I just, when I created this developer app was written to the chain, and those nodes were able to index it and broadcast it back so that a client like this app that we built with audius.co can actually retrieve these values and show them. So here I have an API key and an API secret. As is typical when you're building apps on third-party apps built on top of services, even in the Web 2 landscape, you're given a key and a secret, and the secret is something you want to write down and probably not lose, treat it like a password, and save indefinitely, because at the end of the day, it controls how you're able to write on behalf or interact on behalf of other users. So I'm going to copy this API secret. I'm going to just start a new text file here and paste our key and our secret, like so. And then I am going to say back to my apps now that I have these written down, and we have demo app here. Now what I'm going to do is go back to our SDK documentation and set up a node project to start interacting with these things. So coming back over to my terminal here, I am going to make a directory, and we're going to call this Audius Dapp.
Oh, this that
demo.
real coding junk right here.
Go into that directory.
This is what you got to learn.
And I'm going to initialize a new NPM project or a node project, NPM init. I'm just going to go with all the defaults here. Version 1, it's called Audius Dapp Demo. And we're going to keep our entry point as this thing called index.js, and we're going to create one of these files. All right, yes. So let's take a look what we have here. We have a package JSON. That's great. We are now going to open and save a new file in our Audius Dapp Demo. We're going to call this index.js. And this is where we're going to actually write our program. The first thing we want to do here, following the instructions on the SDK, is install the SDK via this command. I'm going to run that now. This will take a minute. There's a lot of dependencies on the Ethereum ecosystem, the Solana ecosystem, and Audius protocol things specifically. So while that's installing, we're going to take a look at some of the docs and what I need to do next. Pretty straightforward. I'm going to import the SDK from our package that we just installed. I'm going to initialize it with that API key and secret that we provided, and then I'm going to start using it. So making our first API call with the SDK, we can do something very similar to what we did before. We can say get track and give it an ID. And we can try to do this first and paste in that ID of the #1 song that's trending on Audius right now. See what we're doing? Great. We've installed everything. I'm going to clear our terminal here. I'm going to paste in this code around initializing the SDK. And I'm going to then paste in our API key here and our API secret here. All right, now that we've gone ahead and imported our SDK and are initializing it with an API key and an API secret, I want to make sure that this code runs. So I'm going to add a console log here saying hello world and just run this index file with Node and make sure that it works. Excellent. Okay, cool. So now that we have the SDK set up, I want to go ahead and show the same kind of functionality we could achieve with the public REST API before, fetching a track and printing that out using an ID. For that, we're going to jump over back into our documentation here. In our Getting Started guide, we're going to look at our making your first API call using the SDK. We're going to copy out the first couple lines of code here around getting a track. And here, we're going to, instead of using this default track ID, we're going to go over to the results from our trending query before that we looked up in our browser. We're going to pull the ID from this track and stick that in here and make sure we get the same one. So I'll run this again, clear the terminal, run the index file. We should see here in a second, we get the whole track back. And this is the exact same track object that we would see hitting the REST API here. You can see that this track has the ID, QPV, and it is uploaded by Good Society, we were talking about earlier. All right, continuing along on this example, I really want to build us towards a place where we can actually contribute to the audience catalog instead of just reading from it. And what that would be uploading something ourselves. Before we get there, in order to upload something, we're going to need our user ID. And I'm going to upload on behalf of this account that I set up earlier called Live Demo. If all goes well, we should actually see a track show up on this profile page afterwards. So I'm going to steal this handle, Live Demo. That's my handle that I signed up with. And I'm going to plop that into this similar query, users get user by handle. So copy this over. I'm going to comment out these lines for getting a track. I'm going to paste in Live Demo here. And I'll log out our user ID. Clear our output, and I will run the script again.